Hey everybody, welcome to the Private Club Radio Show, where we give you the scoop on all things private golf and country clubs, from mastering leadership and management, food and beverage excellence, member engagement secrets, board governance, and everything in between, all while keeping it fun and light. Whether you're a club veteran just getting your feet wet or somewhere in the middle, you are in the right place. I'm your host, Denny Corby. Welcome to the show. In this episode, I am chatting with my new friend, Sam Ohnesorge, who is the director of food and beverage at Erin Hills in Wisconsin. And what a wonderful story and journey he has taken from a musical theater major dreaming of Broadway to becoming a certified sommelier and leader in some of the most prestigious clubs in the country. Erin Hills is a really cool and very fascinating, unique club that is open to the public. And they do more in F&B in about 4 or 6 months than most clubs do in an entire year. But we're diving into how Erin Hills creates a member for a day type of experience. We talk about the importance of personalized service, the magic of hosting unforgettable events like the U.S. Women's Open they have coming up. Plus, he has some fantastic stories about mentorship, wine, and what it's like to work at a club that blends Midwest charm with high-end luxury. This is a great episode, great conversation. Cannot wait for you to dive in. Before we do, big thanks to some of our show partners, Kenneth's Member Vetting, Concert Golf Partners, and Golf Life Navigators, as well as myself, the Denny Corby Experience. There's excitement, there's mystery, also there's magic. If you are looking for one of the most fun member event nights your club can have, check out dennycorby.com. So Private Club Radio listeners, let's welcome to the show, Sam Ohnesorge.
Fortunately, but I saw you're going to the Midwest regional one. Yeah, over in, is it Illinois this year, I think? I think last year was Minnesota.
Yeah, it's right outside Chicago.
Yeah. I'm out of town that week, but it would have been a fun time.
It's going to be a blast, actually.
Those are always fun.
How do you pronounce your last name?
Ohnesorge. So it's actually German, like the German.
Ohnesorge?
Yep, the German pronunciation is Ohnesorge, and it means without worry. So no worries, Hakuna Matata. That's basically my mantra.
The German Hakuna Matata.
And anyone that knows me, they're like, "Oh, it's 100% fitting for Sam."
Say it again.
Ohnesorge.
Ohnesorge. Oh, okay.
Yep.
So the H is kind of silent. Oh, no. Well, not really. Oh, okay.
Yeah, Ohnesorge.
Yeah.
Hard G.
Yeah, when I see a name, my brain just goes, "You're screwed." Yeah. Samuel.
I mean, I've gotten all pronunciations. I
Ohnesorge.
remember there was one time growing up playing sports in high school when it somehow came out like it was like Japanese, and I was like, I don't know where that came from. And it was like Onisaki, and I'm like, what is going on right now?
Yo, that is funny. That is good.
Like, it's never pronounced right. It took me to turn like 14 before I could spell it right.
That's so I remember, so in Pennsylvania, where I'm at Scranton, we used to have the area code 717. And then I forget how old I was. And they were like, because of like so many numbers and they your area is now going to be like 5570. I think I was like, I don't know, like 8 or something. I don't want to say too young or too old, but I remember they changed it and I was like, how am I going to, like, I just learned my phone number. Yeah. How am I going to, like, this update just ruins everything.
It's like you lose the cloud and you're like, I don't know a single person. I think I could maybe name 3 phone numbers in my phone. Like, off the top of my head, I think I know 3 of them.
I thought about that recently. I was going through my head. I'm like, would I be able to? And I was like 57, and I was going through, like, was it this or this? And I was like, oh my God, like this is embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, it's like going to get one call in jail. I'm like, I just need to remember a phone number to make the call. Like, I don't think I would know if I was in jail ever. I was like, I don't know who I would call because I swear to God, probably 3 phone numbers in my phone.
That's so funny. Thank you for coming on. Thanks for being on the show. We're going to have a fun chat. I mean, we already had a fun chat because our first conversation was a blast. Probably more laughs than I'd like to admit, but no, it was just a really cool, fun story of lateral moves, which I don't want to say are important, but are just happen, and moves are moves. But from the lateral move, and then also from just going from private clubs to now a public club that I want you to talk about, because you have so much cool stuff going on there. So much is happening in a short amount of time because it's only open for, a certain amount of time, but you
Yeah.
pack a lot into it, and giving people, and you phrased it beautifully, which is giving people the private club experience who might not have access or the ability to have it, but just a beautiful club. But give us a quick update of your background. What got you, the 30,000 foot view,
Yeah.
what got you into clubs, and what got you to here?
Yeah. So I was, I think we talked briefly last time too, was I was a musical theater major in college, and I had no clue what I was going to do. Wanted to be the big Broadway star, and kind of realized quickly that that wasn't going to happen. Not that I was not good or anything. Not, I don't know how to toot my horn, but realized it wasn't like a path I wanted to take, and was
Yeah.
going into my senior year. Had no clue what I wanted to do. No, I loved the game of golf, and enjoyed working in the food and beverage side. Kind of growing up, bartending, serving, everything like that, and one of still my best friends today, Sarah McGuire. She's the clubhouse manager out at Southampton Bath and Tennis. We were in college at the time, and she's like, "Hey, we've got this trip with our CMAA group for the UW Stout chapter. Everything's paid for. All you have to do is pay for your plane ticket. So your lodging's taken care of, everything." And I'm like, "Okay, it's spring break." This was the conference down in San Antonio. I said, what do I have to lose? So I jumped on a plane, had no clue what I was getting into, walked in blind to my, the CMA conference. They're like, "Oh, it has to be suit and tie." I don't think at that point I owned a suit or maybe even a tie. So I remember I went down to like the local thrift store, and I was like, "I just need a suit." It did not fit. Like, it was totally way too big. But I was like, "I need a suit. I need a tie." I was a college kid. I was broke. Got on this plane to San Antonio, Texas, and the first night, everyone I was with was like, "Oh, we're going to get some rest." They're really nervous for this club managers conference. It's a big, as I see now, it's like a big time for students to get internships or jobs or anything out of school. And I'm like, I'm in San Antonio on spring break. Like, I'm going to go have a couple drinks. Like, I'm going out of the town. I sat at a bar and sat next to, at the time, who was the assistant manager at Shinnecock Hills. And I didn't know it. And we sat and chatted for 3-4 hours, and just, I remember he ordered a Patron Silver on the rocks, and I'm like, "Well, that's a drink." And then we just chatted. We sat and talked. Never came up, "What are you in town for? What brings you here?"
That is so
And then we
funny.
kind of left that night. The next day I walk into the conference, and he's like, "I want you on my team." He's like, "I'm offering you a job. I don't need to interview you." He's like, "I want you as a person. I'll teach you everything you need to know." And obviously I knew like Shinnecock Hills Golf Club,
Right.
growing in the golf world. And I remember I walked out and I called my dad. I was like, "Dad, I already accepted a job at this small semi-private course in Wisconsin. I don't know how to tell him no, or what do I do?" And he's like, "It's Shinnecock Hills. Like, you get on a plane and you go to the Hamptons and you'll figure it out." So I went out to the Hamptons, had no clue. I'm from a town of 4,000 people in Wisconsin. And I walk in, I get off the airport. He picks me up from the airport, and I'm all of a sudden in like the Hamptons, and I'm thinking like white chicks, like all that stuff you think with the Hamptons. And it's nothing like that at all. And the first night we had like a wine dinner for like 150 people. And I kid you not, my manager, he looked at me, he's like, "All right, Sam, start opening wine." And I looked him like dead in the eye. Again, I was like, he's like, "You don't know how to open a bottle of wine." I was like, "You told me you'd teach me everything." So he's like, "Here, go, go, go." And like after that first night, kind of just fell in love with not only food and beverage, but wine in general. Kind of took that education, ran with it, advanced on the sommelier, court of sommelier side. I was in the Hamptons for 4 years. I loved every second of it. It is as beautiful as people think it is. Played some amazing golf courses. And then I was at the point where Shinnecock Hills was a seasonal club. So they're only open end of May till election day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they shut down. And they are a place that is straight golf and lunch. No breakfast, no dinner. We would do private dinners and such every once in a while, but it wasn't a massive food and beverage operation. They were strictly, they knew what they were really good at. They were a really good golf club. and it was awesome, but wanted more. And we had the U.S. Open in 2018, and a gentleman by the name of Will Duthie, who at the time was the GM of Columbia Country Club in Washington, D.C., was a really good friend with my GM at the time, Nick Conlon. He came up and helped out for the week. He was just a helping hand. I mean, there was one day where, U.S. Open security's tight, and one of our famous drinks, the Southside, uses a lot of mint. And I'm like, I swear I ordered enough mint for literally like 17 weeks, and we were out of mint. And I told Will, I was like, I need you to go to the grocery store and smuggle mint in here. Like, I need you to put it in your trunk and get through security. And he got in his car, went to like every grocery store in the area, brought back mint, and we got it in. And 2 weeks later, he called me up and he's like, hey, I spoke with Nick, and if you want, like, I would love to have you as part of my team. I know we talked about how you're looking for something more. And, so flew down to the DC area, checked it out, loved it, loved the vibe. And then ended up taking the job and moving down there. And that's going from, Shinnecock Hills Golf Club serving lobster BLTs and fescue rescues to Columbia Country Club in DC that, on a regular night, you'll have 5-6 banquets going on. We had 3 restaurants that served out of one kitchen that was about the size of maybe a half a kitchen.
So you really you just kept being like thrown into like the lion's den.
Yeah, like jumping in. And
from one extreme to like the next, like
Yeah, and kind of fell in love with it. I mean, Columbia Country Club is a 12-month operating club. Their busiest food and beverage month is December. Between Christmas parties, the restaurants, all 3 of them rocking and rolling. Christmas Day, we're doing 1,400, 1,500 people for a buffet.
Yeah.
And really learned a ton there, and learned a ton underneath Will as well. And then this was now 3 years ago. Will, myself, and the management team had been working on this capital improvement to renovate the clubhouse, and roughly, say, a $15 million project. And it passes with like a 93% approval from membership. 1,500 members too. Like, that's impressive. And Will goes, hey, let's go grab a beer. And I'm like, yeah, let's go grab a beer, celebrate this just passed. And he sits down, he's just like white in the face. And he's like, I took another job. And I'm like, what? Like, I never would have expected it. I mean, everyone there would have thought Will would have been there for, the rest of his career. And he moved up to Round Hill Club, and unfortunately didn't have the opportunity to go with him. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to sit through this renovation, get through it, and learn some things as I kind of, again, thrown into the lion's den. Yeah. Like, here we go, Sam, figure it out. And then a week later, I got a call from Erin Hills, and they're like, hey, your name's been thrown around. Are you interested? We're looking for a director of food and beverage. And I'm originally from Wisconsin, and there aren't a ton of, private clubs in the state of Wisconsin. Right. It's not a big industry in the state of Wisconsin. I didn't even know about it until I went down to San Antonio and flew out here, stayed overnight on property. And I remember I woke up at like 5 a.m. just to see the kind of property come to life. And it's a pretty amazing property, 650 acres, one 18-hole golf course, no pool, no spa. We've got a dining room. We serve breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then we do events as long as they're tied to golf. So, and it went back to kind of like that 5 months. We are busy from May to October. We do about $2.1 million in food and beverage alone in those months. And then we shut the doors and we don't open till next May. So getting that, and there were some personal things going on with my family that was just a time to get closer to home. Was the first real time that I took a lateral move probably to just get closer to home and get closer to family. And I wouldn't change it for anything.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you have a pretty decent schedule, and like the club is amazing. I mean, to do those sort of numbers, some clubs don't even do that, in a 12-month period.
Yeah.
The CMAA and NCA and club benchmarking did a study. There's only, of the clubs, there's only a handful that make it over like $1 million like a year.
Right.
And that's like everything. So you guys do that just in food and beverage. You're not even open for other stuff. Like that's impressive. Is your lodging, is that open all all year long, or
It's not. It's open
is it
just
everything
towards.
shuts?
Yeah, everything shuts down,
Snap.
and kind of the crazy when you get into like and that was the other piece that I kind of wanted to learn about when I moved here, and that doesn't fall, necessarily under my responsibilities or my roles, but I wanted to learn the lodging side because
Yeah.
I've never been with it on the private side, and
And
so we surprisingly had, I think last year finished at about a 98% occupancy rate, which is we're pretty much full every night. And
yeah.
the weird things is the days that we aren't full are like July 4th, Memorial Day, Labor Day, when all these other clubs are crazy busy. We
Yeah.
are extremely slow. But the lodging side, so we have 5 4-bedroom cottages, and then we have an 11-bedroom lodge. So roughly, on a regular night, we'll have 50 to 60-ish people staying over, and creates that really intimate feeling. We could bust open another 30-bedroom hotel,
Yeah.
but we don't want to. We want it to have that intimacy. We want it to feel like a private club. We don't want to be turning and burning tables.
Yeah.
We want people, if they sit down at 5 o'clock and want to sit there for 4.5 hours, like, let's let them sit there and enjoy the sunset and the view for 4.5 hours.
That is something to be said. Because I think whether people know it or not sometimes, and even if they don't have to like flip a table, like they give you that like feeling of, like, do I have to like leave?
Yeah.
Like, like some people just give it off that vibe, like, I think we have to go. Like they want us out. But that is, so is that
giving them the stink eye? Like, let's go.
So is that like instilled into the staff? Like, don't rush, like, obviously if you want to get people's meals out accordingly, but like, or actually I should say too, that's one thing I always appreciate is at a really good restaurant when the server can like watch and almost like feel like, sometimes like everything just comes out like it's not timed well, but like you just go like certain restaurants, like it's just a really, like, it's just almost like a seamless, like right as you're about to question where the food's at, like everything just comes at like the perfect time. So is that part of the training there too? And kind of with the staff, like, hey, listen, people are here for a good time. This could be their first time and their last, whatever, but like you just give them that like world-class experience. Like, don't rush them. This is not churn and burn. Like, is that part of the culture? Is that part of?
Yeah. So I guess it a little bit differs. Our lunch is very fast casual. It's like sandwiches, salads. People are either they had too late of a night and they're late to the first tee, so they're looking for a sandwich in 2 minutes, or they're grabbing a bite before they have to go hit a plane. So lunch is kind of very, fast casual, more or less. And then we get into dinner, and dinner is interesting because a lot of golf resorts or public resorts, they may be a public resort, but anyone could come in from down the road and come have dinner at their property. Where at Erin Hills, you can only dine with us at Erin Hills if you're staying or playing on the tee sheet that day. So people down the street aren't picking up for a Saturday night reservation at 7 o'clock to celebrate an anniversary. The number of times I get that if someone finds out I'm, from Erin Hills, and they're like, well, you used to be open to the public. When is that going to happen again? And
Never.
But our philosophy is really, it goes back to, I think you said it before, is people may never be here again. We need to give them the best experience that they can possibly have. And we really train and just hire good people. We don't need the best servers. We don't need the best bartenders. We need the best people here, because at dinner, I want you to sit out there and have a conversation with them for 20 minutes. And if the kitchen's got food in the window, we'll take care of it and run it for you. But just having that conversation, welcoming people to Erin Hills, figuring out why they're here. Have they been here before? We have a small little note card. I'm wondering if I have one around here that our servers fill at the end of the day. And it's really, Denny Corby, is he staying overnight? Where is he staying? Has he been here before? What are his preferences, right? He loves, he thinks cheese curds are the same as mozzarella sticks, so don't offer the cheese curds. But, and then we take that information and we use, Jonas, like many private clubs do, and we plug that information in. So next time when our reservationist picks up the phone and answers that call, they have those notes in front of them. And that's another kind of unique aspect about us is you can't book anything online at Erin Hills. You have to pick up the phone and call a reservationist. So we're not running on Golf Now or Expedia or anything like that. You physically have to pick up the phone and speak to someone on that first call. And that's our first touch point of that
Wow.
human interaction.
That's cool.
Yeah. And, it's, I think that's a cool point because people sometimes are like blown away by that. Like, whoa, like I actually talked to somebody. It wasn't an AI robot. It was a
Yeah.
human being who's at Erin Hills, who we train on, the property, we train on our history, we train on our operations, and we really set the tone from kind of that first phone call. And going back to that, have you seen the show The Bear?
I have not.
So great show, especially like if you're in the food and beverage, and some of it's played up, but there's an episode in season 2 called Forks where one of these grizzly brothers is like staging in a restaurant, and he's literally just polishing forks for like a week. And he asks the kitchen expo and the maitre d' like, how do you guys do this every day? And the response was basically, you never know like the reasoning why people are here, or if they can never come back here or ever afford it again. They're like, their mom may have saved up for a whole year to send their son to Erin Hills to play one round of golf. And we get the opportunity to make that magic once they're here on property.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really our kind of mantra, is just be really good people, serve really good food, and have really great conversation.
Yeah. No, I'm looking at, you have a great site too.
Yeah. And you can kind of like, you see the clubhouse over top of it that looks out over the golf course, and the sun sets over the golf course every day. So it's one of the like most beautiful sunsets you
So
can get.
remind me, was the club, did it used to be a private club, or was it like a public city club, or
No,
was
so that's
nothing
kind
there?
of a crazy story. It used to be a farm. Like it was a farm. It was a cattle farm here in Erin, Wisconsin, and there was the original owner came out to the property, and his goal was to bring a U.S. Open to the state of Wisconsin. And he said, "This is the landscape that I can build this on." Original owner basically put everything he had, and he made money off of like calendars, like Hallmark calendars, and put everything in, had this dream of bringing a U.S. Open to Wisconsin. Unfortunately, didn't have the funds to kind of continue the process. So our current owner
Ran out of
purchased the
time?
property, ran out of time, ran out of money.
Because of
Current
the
owner,
calendars.
yeah, the calendar stopped. The
Right.
iPhone came out, I think, and people didn't buy calendars anymore. And current owner bought it, and then little while after, USGA announced they're bringing a U.S. Open to Wisconsin, and it's really exploded on its growth since our current owner purchased it. Rebuilt a clubhouse up here that sits on top of the hill. It was actually a small world modeled to get the kind of same view you get at Shinnecock with the patio. And sitting and dining and overlooking the golf course, peeking it up. There was a lot of back and forth on, people aren't going to want to walk up the hill after walking this whole 18-hole golf course. And now people come up just to see the view and check it out and everything like that. But yeah, so it's always been public course, changed a lot since really 2007, but very young. We've hosted multiple USGA championships. We're one of like very few courses that have hosted or are set to host all of like the USGA's majors. So the Women's Open, the Men's Open, the Men's Amateur, and the Women's Amateur. We just had another slew of major championships with the USGA announced a few months back, and really just focus on the game of golf, growing the game of golf, and making it a great kind of destination place for people to travel from all over the world.
What's it like going from all the privately owned clubs to now this?
Yeah, it's different. It's weird. It's when you're on, I always joke when you're on the private side, it's once you understand the operation and the people, like it's easy. It's the same things where Denny comes in and we know he always gets a Tito's martini dirty, and you come, run
Pretty
the food
damn
and beverage
close.
side.
Pretty damn close.
Yeah. The food and beverage side is like you come into the bar, we know exactly what you're going to have. We know you're having this, or we know you drink Miller Lite, or we know you do this. You like your iced tea, no lemon. And you develop those relationships with people. There's people from DC and even New York that members out there that still reach out and, say, hey, Merry Christmas, Sam, or call me randomly just to see how I'm doing.
Yeah.
And there's some people here at Erin Hills that do the same, but that relationship side, you really have a relationship for, you hope it's more than one day. Maybe they're coming back later or coming back again, but creating the relationships has been kind of a void right now, in the sense like you miss that side. You miss, when you run a place that's kind of rocking and rolling for 5 months, you really just knock down the operations side and focus on that rather than, really on the private side, honing on those special, crazy moments. I think we talked last time about it was a Christmas day, and one of the members in DC was like looking forward to the rack of lamb.
Yeah.
We didn't have the rack of lamb on the buffet, and he was kind of joking, nudging me about how he was so disappointed. It wasn't like he was actually disappointed. And I went to our chef and I was like, hey, I know we've got rack of lamb on the menu downstairs. Can we rip up some lamb and grill it off, and I'll serve it to his table? And we grilled off some lamb. I dropped it at his table, and this guy still, like, I have a voicemail in here. He called me like 3 weeks ago, and he's like, I was just remembering the lamb, and I just wanted to, hope you're doing well and give you a call. And, those relationships is, I think sometimes you overlook them on the private side, like creating that relationship. They want to know about your family. They want to meet your family. So sometimes that's a different side. And as far as, like the legislation and stuff goes, like we don't have a board.
Right.
We are a single owner. Our GM is works remote 90% of the year, which is a little bit interesting. He's based out of Denver. He's on property maybe 5 or 6 times or so a year, but really hires people because he thinks they're really good at what they do and trusts them and instills like, hey, if you want to do something, you think it's right for the operation, go ahead and do it. Also, if you pick up the phone or shoot him an email, gets right back to you. So it's not that it's a negative side. It's just an interesting side from my end where it's like, all right, this is your department. What you see fit, go with it. If you need to run anything by me, I'm here to run it by. Different side. You don't have committees. I don't have a house committee meeting. You don't have, all these different committees. So it's definitely a little bit different. And sometimes it's easier. Like if we want to change something, we change it. We don't have to jump through a bunch of different hoops.
Yeah.
And we switch it up and we do something different, and we want to really kind of keep evolving and growing at the same time, holding on to our roots and who we are and what we do here.
Yeah. So what's next on the horizon with the club?
Yeah. So this spring, actually, it's not really on the horizon now. It's almost right in front of us. End of May, the U.S. Women's Open. So it's a really cool time to be in women's sports. I think you look at like Caitlin Clark. She's not a golfer by any means, but she's really put kind of that women's sports on the map. Mm-hmm. That's coming up here end of May, first weekend in June.
So how do you prepare for that? What are you doing to prepare for that?
Yeah. So what we'll do, so it's a little bit interesting. So you look at like their big championship for the USGA is the men's US Open. Mm-hmm. The women's US Open's about a third of the size, a third to half. So USGA comes in and everything on course, like your concession stands, your VIP tents, anything really on course, that'll be manned and managed by the USGA through a catering company. What our team will be responsible for that week is we will use our clubhouse, and we are going to be in charge of USGA VIPs, future sites. So any private club or public golf course that is hosting this event in the next 2, 3, 5, 8 years, they usually send out, usually it's like a GM or a club president. So I'm sure a lot of people from the private side will be out here as USGA future sites, VIPs. and we'll run that for that week. And it's not going to be a crazy kind of busy week for, I shouldn't say crazy busy. It'll be crazy busy. We have Women's Open here, but numbers wise, it won't be, unmanageable or anything kind of out of our, what we can really knock out of the park. But it's exciting to have USGA future sites, because then it gives us an opportunity to really show off.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to do cool stuff. We want people to be like, holy cow, they did this at Erin Hills. We don't want to be, their coffee was terrible, or, we don't want the negative side. So we're going to kind of put all of our efforts into blowing that experience for USGA VIPs and future sites when they're here on property, to really enjoy that time.
And there's got to be a great buzz in and around the club before, during, and after. Because then like leading up, there must be then afterwards, because like the new people who are now coming in to, play, they must have a bunch of questions. So the staff must get like excited. There must be this like camaraderie almost, like, tell me all about it. Like, who'd you meet? Who was that? Like, I don't know.
And the cool thing is there's gonna be a ton of like TV coverage, the deals that they sign now.
Yep.
You can watch it. I believe it is, I don't believe it's NBC. So like Peacock will have coverage. NBC's main channel will have coverage. There will be a ton of coverage, and people are going to be watching this, especially if you're coming, say, the week after. You're going to lock in and be like, Lydia Ko just hit this same shot I'm about to hit, and they'll probably duff it 12 feet. But like, that's the cool experience, and people will really lock into that experience. They were even doing it, at the end of last year, and we really try to arm and give our team as much information so they can share that with the guests. It's funny, anytime I hire someone, like, do I need to know about golf? Because I've never played or have no clue. And I'm like, no, we'll fill you in with everything you need to know.
Let me tell you how I started.
Let me give you a hint. Did you ever open a bottle of wine before?
Yo, your GM that night definitely went home and was like, who did I bring in? What did I do? Honey, how was his first day?
Yeah, this is gonna be a working project. But it's also crazy. There's a funny story too. Is I somewhat did the same thing a couple of years later. As I hired this gentleman, his name's Logan Block, and no food and beverage experience. He was from he actually grew up in the same hometown as me. He was 4 years younger.
That's funny.
But I knew he was a good kid. I knew he'd work his tail off, and I knew he really wanted to learn. And so I brought him out to Shinnecock Hills. And his first day, we just did this brand new basement. We put this massive service elevator in there. And it used to be like an old school, like dumbwaiter. Like, the rope was probably 70 years old. And we put in this brand new service elevator. And we needed to set up tables for a meeting or something later in the day. And I was like, hey, Logan, can you go load up some 8-foot tables? We need 3 of them. And he puts these 8-foot tables in, standing straight up, sends it accidentally to the top floor, and it actually goes through the roof of the clubhouse. And in my head, I'm like, don't you think you'd build a service elevator that like has enough clearance? And like through the roof. And my GM at the time, he's like, fire him. He's not going to make it. This, that, and the other. And I'm like, calm down. Whoa. And now the guy is the director of business operations at Sand Valley Golf Course, one of the top, golf resorts, not only in the state of Wisconsin, but in the U.S. Same owners as Bandon Dunes and all those. And it really just goes back to, hey, your first day may be a little rough, but if you get through it, you'll be fine.
His performance was through the roof.
Yeah.
Performance review time through the roof.
But yeah, now he's been really successful in the golf industry. And every time I see him, we always laugh about it. And my GM Nick, we always laugh about it. He's like, I did not do that. I was like, yeah, you were ready to send him home from that roof. He's like, it was a brand new elevator. And we laugh about it all the time.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are you also a sommelier too?
Yeah. So I certified. I gotta think now. 2000 and I think it was 2018. Went to the town of Portland, Maine, which is one of my favorite cities in the U.S. certified there, and really to go from not knowing how to open a bottle of wine.
That is where I was going. Is
Yeah.
literally from like, and like, what was that process like?
Yeah. So it really kind of just fell in my head. It was, well, if I'm going to be in this industry, I need to learn this industry. And, food and beverage, a lot of time wine looks into it or feeds into it. And so it was really kind of, once I was done with college, loved to keep learning, reading. And that was kind of what I threw everything into. My mom would call me on like a Tuesday night. She's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just tasting through some wines and talking through stuff." And she's like, "It's Tuesday." I'm like, "I'm learning."
Work.
But yeah, it's the history behind it, the art behind wine. These winemakers are really just glorified farmers. There's a lot that goes into every single bottle of wine that's out there, including like Franzia, but
isn't that a box?
Yeah, it's like a box, $2 chuck. But the cool thing is there's just so much history behind it. So many wines, regions that used to be, French are now Germans because of World War II or anything along those lines. Like the history behind it, and being able to talk through it is just really, really exciting. And found a really good group of friends in the New York area that was, hey, once a week, let's drink a little wine and talk about wines and, taste through some stuff. And really just kind of fell in love with it. Yeah. Now, especially where I'm at, currently it's a big part of my job. And every time that I get invited over to a holiday party or dinner or something, so Sam's bringing the wine. I'm like, oh, sweet. Yeah. But yeah, I love it. There's so much information and stuff that you can uncover as you kind of dig deeper into the wine world.
Yeah. And I'm sure just based off what I've heard, what you were saying about the place too, is now you have these people coming for this experience, and now they're going to order a bottle and being able to talk about the year and the notes and the whatever.
Yeah. And there's, a lot of times there's, a frequent handful of people that will come here, 4 or 5 times a year. They may be in the Chicago area, or they just love coming to this place. And really now it's hey, Sam, pick out a bottle, bring us something, and let's talk about it and drink through it and taste it. And I always tell them, like, hey, if you guys don't like it, we'll send it back. We'll taste it with the servers. Like, I'm sure they'll enjoy learning about wines a little bit more. But that's kind of the cool
the servers are bribing the people that don't like the bottle.
Yeah, say it's bad. Say it's
bad.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just a great, it's kind of like, playing the game of golf is, even with wine, you don't have to be a great golfer to be able to hold your own on a golf course and talk with people about the game. But just having that general knowledge, and sharing that knowledge with our team, it equips them to really have that conversation.
Yeah. And it's a cool way to connect with people too, or just another tool on, like, it's just another way to it's just other weird stuff to know that, I mean, well, that's beyond, stuff to know, but to me, it's always like, knowing a lot about a lot of things, or just knowing enough about a bunch. So just being able to have conversations, just being able to connect with more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I appreciate, you taking the time.
My pleasure.
It's, I follow you guys. I'm big with CMA. I'll be out in Tampa. It's kind of that, again, I think we talked last time about how, don't tell CMA I said this, like, the education is great, but like just catching up with people, talking, meeting in the hallways, grabbing a cocktail or something after education. That's the best part about conferences, connecting with people from all over the US and the world in a short week's term.
And geek out about stuff that you enjoy and the club space.
Yeah.
But no, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'll see you in about a month.
Yes, sir.
Looking forward to it.
See you, bud. Hope you all enjoyed that episode. I know I did. You're enjoying the content. If you could do me a big favor, wherever you're consuming, give it a rating and a review. That would mean so much to me. I would really, really appreciate it. Takes a couple seconds, costs nothing, and means the world. That's this episode. Until next time, catch y'all on the flippity flip.